Thank you, Tim. Oh! Well, my dad always said, watch out, you'll knock that over.
I think it was Tim.
It was? No, it was probably me. I don't mind taking blame for that. Thank you, Las Vegas Rotary Club, for having me today. I'm honored and fascinated by how the Rotary Club works. I thought it had to do with those roundabouts that you drive in, but I was far off. And it was so great to hear all the service and stuff. And I'm going to talk today about my journey to Las Vegas and what it was like and how it took me from St. Paul, Minnesota. Yeah, we have some St. Paul people here. Welcome. I'll have a ride home. I'm going to talk about when in 1978, I left. I started stand-up comedy there in St. Paul, Minnesota. In 1953, I was born in the Roosevelt Projects in St. Paul, Minnesota. And so when you talk about all these programs, I was one of those kids, I'm sure from the St. Paul Rotary, who was able to get the benefits from these programs. And we grew up with 11 kids. I was 10th of 11. And people will say, well, you must have been Catholic. I say, no, my dad was a musician. And they never understand it, but I'm glad you got the joke. I appreciate it. I think that, you know, the most important thing I learned growing up with my family was the service that they provided, even though we were so poor that the welfare department helped us with rent every month. And rent was only $53. So you know that was the help we honestly needed. In fact, my dad was in the home, so I was very lucky to have both parents, even though my dad suffered from alcoholism. He always worked. He could, not to be too dramatic, but he could drink until 3 or 4 in the morning and get up at 5 and look like he hadn't had a drink, and we used to wonder if he was an alien. Sometimes he would drink, so my mom would say, you check if he's breathing. I go, you can't kill him. We've tried. But I learned a work ethic from my dad, even though he suffered from alcoholism and that addiction. He never, ever didn't go to work. And so I learned a really strong work ethic. And I think it's what got me through so much. I remember, you know, going to the country club food market, and I think, you know, it was always a budget. There was never enough money to get everything we wanted. But even as we were going through checkout, it was an interesting situation. My dad would say, put these groceries in a separate bag. And when he would do that, I was wondering what it was all about. And little did I know that at the end of it, that bag was dropped off at somebody's house who was in more need than we were. So I learned through, I guess, the association of my parents to do those kinds of things. And in 1981, I decided I had 3 goals. I had 3 goals. One was to get on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. That was my very first goal. The second goal was to get my name at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. That was my second goal. My third goal was to host a talk show. Those were it. Those were my 3 goals. Of course, to lose some weight has always been a goal, but I'm still working on that one. So I set out in my 1978 Malibu with $600, and now I have 7, and it's the town it is. But I drove, my parents at that time had retired to Carson City, Nevada. We had an aunt that lived there, and my mom and dad had had enough of freezing to death during the winter. You know, in Minnesota, it was so cold, you know, that I never, you know, the first time I left there, I just go, my mom said, do you want to take your winter coat? And I go, I'm never coming back here. Why don't you give it to another fat kid? And I just can't live anywhere where the term good gloves is used at all. I just won't do it. Because people would say that back then. Where are you going? I'm going out. Do you have your good gloves? And you knew how damn cold it really was. And you realize another thing that happens when you grow up in cold weather, you learn to be nice to people. Because you can't make someone mad in the summer, you might need their help in the winter. And I learned that. And my mom was the nicest person in the world. She raised 11 kids with so much love and care. And she put up with my dad. That's how I put it. And she was very, very strong. And we would be out driving many times, and she would go, why don't we pick him up? And I go, Mom, that's Charlie Manson. And she'd go, that's okay, I'll talk to him. I go, Mom, he's got a knife. And she'd say, well, we could use a good knife. This is really who my mom was. She was really a lovely person. And if she was here tonight, she would have these centerpieces with the salt and pepper shakers in her purse. That's the first thing. And I would say to her, you know, it's stealing. And she'd go, they figure in for this stuff. My brother got caught shoplifting, and she says, where would he get an idea like that? And I go, why don't we check the salt and pepper shaker wall? You're 2 shakers from a felony. And these were the people I grew up with. They were lovely, funny, crazy, and not so nice people in my dad's case, many times. But there was a kindness and a great quality to my dad that it took me a long time to find, to understand, and to forgive him. And he left me with a lot of good things. And this journey took me in my Malibu Classic. I remember driving that car out first through Nebraska, which is the first time that you really have the most boring drive in the whole, I'm sorry if anyone's from Nebraska, but that is one state they should legalize marijuana in. So that you can make that drive. It's where my idol Johnny Carson is from, so I tease. But and then I got to Denver and performed at the Comedy Works there for several weeks because I was terrified to go to Los Angeles. There was a part of me that was terrified to make it to Los Angeles, and I was afraid. So I thought, well, maybe I'll stay in Denver. You know, it's a nice place. The people seem nice. But then I realized there was barely enough air for me to breathe, so that I should move on. And that took me on a drive to Provo, Utah, where I stopped and saw a little place called the Rolling Scone. And I thought, what's a scone? Because I was a poor kid and I had no idea what a scone was. Of course, now I love scones. And I think it should be the state food. So, but I did there and I performed for Mormons because I've always had a very clean act and very family, because my mom would come and see my show and I didn't want her to do this look when I said anything wrong. She had a very powerful this look. And so I always did a clean act that I thought my mom should be able to see and you should be able to bring your family to. It just fit me better. I have no judgment about anybody doing what they want, but it always fit me better. It always made more sense for me. And then I said, these Mormons, they're so nice. Because I had grown up in a family that was not as nice. And I go, they seem happy, these Mormons. So they invited me to stay at their house, and I go, maybe I should become a Mormon. And I seriously thought about becoming a Mormon. They love things that I love, ice cream. They love scones. But I knew that I was again prolonging the journey that I had put myself on to become a success. And so I left and headed to Carson City. Went through Reno, where I visited my dad at the VA hospital. He was sick at the time. And always said, I have to do more for veterans. And then my dad got out of the hospital. We had a nice visit. I stayed in Carson City quite a long time. And then I drove up through Lake Tahoe and down that mountain and hit the 101 in Los Angeles. And I said, there are palm trees. I called people. I go, there are palm trees on the freeways here. Get out here as soon as you can. There's no snow. So it was an amazing thing, and I drove down to Los Angeles, went directly to the Comedy Store, and saw all the names on there of famous people, and was, you know, a kid who just wanted to get on the Tonight Show. I really had one more goal. I had like one more goal in show business, was to get on the Comedy Store, to host a show, to do the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and to become a headliner in Vegas, because comics, you know, actors go to Hollywood, you know, and people who do Broadway, they go to New York. But comics, their real goal is to be a headliner in Las Vegas. And I used to watch the Tonight Show with my dad, and I auditioned for the guy at the Tonight Show, and he said to me, "You're just not Tonight Show material." What? I had been working so long. He said, "We're just not, I don't think Johnny's gonna like you." You're kidding me. And I was really upset. So for 2 years, any time that anyone performed for him at the Comedy Store, I went on directly before or directly after, because I really wanted to get on the Tonight Show. And he never would put me on until the Letterman people booked me. And this taught me a big lesson in show business, that the Letterman people said, "We'd love to have you come on the Letterman show with David." I go, "Great." The same afternoon, Jim McCauley from The Tonight Show called my agent and manager and said, "We want Louie on The Tonight Show." And I went, "Oh my God, this is no good." But I thought to myself, this is a lifelong dream, and I'm going to go on The Tonight Show. And so I said, "I'm sorry" to the Letterman people, which didn't go over very well. And I did The Tonight Show on November 20th, 1984. And I for 2 years, David was mad at me. And I wrote him a note, and I said, "Dave, I just have one question. What would you have done in this situation?" And Dave said, you know, his people called my agent and said, "Okay, we'll have you on the show." So, you know, you just have to believe in your dreams. And after I did that, my name got put on in the Comedy Store. And then later on, I was able to host a week of the Joan Rivers show. So I learned all those things. And then the night I did the Tonight Show, this is all leading somewhere, just so you know. I'm as sick of me as you are. But I don't hear any clanking, which is very encouraging, except in my own head. And then the next night on the Tonight Show, the next night I performed here at the Dunes Hotel at the Comedy Store with Roseanne, Jim Carrey, Harry Basil, and me and Blake Clark. It was $15 for the show. We each did like 5 to 8 minutes. And these were the people that I first worked with here. That night I performed, they had a reviewer here. What was the reviewer's name that they named a street after? He was a great columnist. Do you remember him? No, not the eye patch one, further back. Anyways, he wrote a wonderful review on me. And the next night, the next day, my agent called and said, the Commodores want you to open for them at Bally's Hotel. And I said, yes, who are the Commodores? Is it a dance troupe? He goes, no, the Commodores, Lionel Richie. I go, right, no idea. You know? And so it was just a funny thing. And then, so I was able to have all those goals and do all those things. And I always tried to keep in mind that service was so important. I wrote a letter. I wrote letters to my father 10 years after he died. And they were letters, you know how I felt. They were very emotional for me. They still, as you can tell, are. And I wrote that book. I was supposed to write a biography about how great I was. That's what they wanted from me. And so I said, I want to do this book. And they said, well, we don't want to do this book. I said, well, I don't want to do it with you anyway. You know, that's how I really felt. Well, forget you then. But this book was so powerful for me and changed my life and was able to give me a chance to forgive my dad and forgive the situation and find out really where he came from, who he was. He had it much harder than I had. But you never understand that when you're a kid oftentimes. So I wrote this book, and it hurt my career a little because it was such a serious book. But I got so many letters from people who really appreciated and went through much worse than I did. So even though I have always wanted to be famous, I have always wanted to help people. It's been my curse. I could have been much more famous had I been just a goofy fat guy in being silly and doing whatever the public or whatever the business wanted me to. But I knew there was a more important purpose for me. And the purpose has always been service. I remember once I became successful, we bought 2,000 turkeys for the kids in the projects and their families and handed them out. Because when I was a kid, during Thanksgiving, I do not know who brought it, but somebody brought us a basket of food. We weren't going to be able to have a Thanksgiving dinner. They brought us a basket of food. And I remembered that. So I said, let's do turkeys. And so I did that. And I have always tried to use service and be involved with the comic relief and be involved with as much giving as I could. I had two brothers who were homeless for many years. And homelessness is a big issue for me because, you know, 70 million people are one paycheck away from being homeless. This is how you become homeless. You lose your job, right? Then you lose your apartment. Then you stay with friends, and then nobody likes that. Nobody wants to be a burden to somebody, and the friends, you know how that is. I think we all understand that. Then you live in your car, and then you have to sell your car for money, and then you're homeless. So one of the things I've tried to do is work with Catholic charities around the homeless thing. And I invented I didn't invent it, a friend of mine who's a Republican, and I'm a Minnesota Democrat, but you know, sometimes don't feel like a Democrat with the way things are going. But I've always tried to reach out. So we used to fight about what we should do to help people. And she said this, and I said that. And she said, these people could work. And I go, you don't understand the dynamics of being poor, and you don't understand the mental illness. You don't understand the addiction. I said, let's not fight. Let's start a program. So we started a program called the HERO program, Homeless Empowerment Relationship Organization, where you spend 90 minutes a week in a neutral, safe place with a homeless person to interact, to help them figure out what they need to do next so that they have a friend who's not homeless. Because if you're homeless, I think all your friends are homeless. I mean, I think that's just normal. When we were poor, all of our friends were poor. Once in a while, a rich kid would come in the neighborhood and we'd take all their money. No, just most of it. Anyway, and so we started this program, it's still going in Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's where she was from, and that's where we started it. It's a good program, and you know, I'm a person who every time I pull up to a corner, I don't know what to do for the people who are standing there. You know, they're either hungry or they're, you know, I always try to give money to those people. And my friend is very against it. He goes, don't do that. You know they're gonna buy drugs or alcohol with it. I go, I'm sure they are. I don't think they're gonna start an IRA with it. I go, are you out of your mind? That's what I would be buying with it. Probably more food than drugs or alcohol, but that's what I would be. I'd head right to Dairy Queen. And, you know, and service is oftentimes misunderstood. You guys get the service here. You guys know what you're doing. And, you know, my friend would go, well, why do you give them the money? I go, because the giving's unconditional. Service is for someone else. If there's conditions to service, it's selfish, not service, you know? And one of the things you have to do is you have to leave the judgment, and you just have to give. And that's what you guys do here. You give, you take care of people, and I'm not here. So I'm pretty sure it's a Letterman show. But I just wanted to share a little bit about myself. I'm really lucky, 36 years, that I still can make a living doing stand-up, and I'm really, you know, proud of that. But I'm really proud of the other stuff I've done that I get emotional about. I shouldn't get so emotional. You should be able to hold it together with emotions, but I've never been able to. With the VA program, Tim and I did a wonderful program up there with the help of a friend who has these headphones, and we simulcast my show from the South Point, my live comedy show, to 100 people in the VA Medical Center. And then I went out and visited these guys. And then I said to the volunteer person, I go, how come you don't have a Veterans Appreciation Day every month? Because I don't think people know what to do to help veterans. I don't think that's an easy thing to find out. I think we all want to help the veterans. We all love them dearly. But I think we don't know what to do. I said, well, why don't once a month we pick a different thing? You know, and you know how to do this better than I do, but once a month I'll come out and I'll, you know, try to be the face of it, and we'll try to get other entertainers to do it. So in December, we're starting it, and I hope some of the Rotary people, I hope you'll come out and visit some of the veterans, or just help out with what they need you to out there. It's a beautiful facility. It gets a bad rap because it has not done things exactly perfectly, but we all love the veterans, you know? Sorry, I have a meat tooth. My dad had one. I don't care what it is, you got to get it out of there. I don't care if you're talking to the president. Excuse me, President Trump. You don't have a business card, do you, that I could slap? Anyway, I've really enjoyed myself. Thank you so much to the Las Vegas Rotary Club. And Marianne, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Tim Mullen. And thank you all for putting up with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want? Do we have time for questions?
We
Or?
can take a couple if you have
Yeah,
5
yeah,
minutes.
yeah. Let's do that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Louie said we could do 5 minutes of questions. So if we,
Hey, I didn't say 5 minutes. She did.
I said 5 minutes.
She's not kidding around.
There are certain rules here.
All right.
Being done on time is
So if anybody happens to have a question or,
right over here.
okay.
Ted can probably talk
Hello?
about it. Yes. There we go.
Hi, Ted.
My name's Ted Adams.
Hi, Ted.
Louie, you undershot your goals.
What? Why?
You need to go on Dancing with the Stars.
Ah! Well, you know, I was on Diving with the Stars. But I would go on Dancing with the Stars, but my knees, the ones I have, were made for a smaller model. But as soon as I get my knee fixed, they said they'd have me on, so. And I'm a very good dancer.
Anybody else? Wow, we have a shy room today?
Was that Gus Gouffre or Paul Price?
At the Dancing with the Stars?
No, the people that you said was a commenter on your program.
On the what?
A critic.
No, it wasn't either one of those, but I would know the name. He has a street named after him. Oh man, it's like that though. It's from that era. It's like Littleton or something. I'm really sorry that I don't know that, but he made it possible. He wrote a beautiful review, and I got, a lot of money for opening for those guys. I never forgot it.
Anybody else? Someone back here? All right, hold on.
Just wondering if you considered joining the Las Vegas Rotary Club.
Well, I think I would be a good fit, and who doesn't love a free lunch?
Well, once you join, you have to pay. But
Yeah.
I'm sure we can work something.
Isn't that the truth?
As a headliner, what do you see as your role today and the way the resorts relate to you versus 20 or 30 years ago?
Well, Vegas has changed. It's gone to the kids. The kids, the young people, they control Las Vegas. The headliners are the MCs in these big, making 20 to 40 to even $50 million a year. These guys who spin records that we used to laugh at are now multimillionaires. And we don't get it. Because, I walk into one of those clubs and I go, it's so loud in here. Don't leave me. I'll never find you. It's just, and then I say when I'm in there, how would we get out if there was a fire? These are things you think about when you're older. I get treated very well still, but you're competing now. When I started, maybe there were 50 shows tops. There are 120 shows. So I am trying to get, I'm competing with the Beatles. Do you know what I mean? I'm competing with Celine, and all these giant people. So I don't go after the weekend people. I have a big reputation with locals. I do a lot of local business. And I try to have a resort like the South Point where I work, who really supports it and really does their work. But it's a jungle out there. It's not the same city. It's evolving and changing. But I predict it will eventually go back to really good entertainment. It always does. It always does. I've never seen it not. If you notice, all the big headliners are here, but the young kids don't have any interest. They want to go to the club. They want to hear the records. They want to get bottle service. And then I'm not sure what they're all doing, but it's much too loud for me.
I think we're going to.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We enjoyed it.
Thank you all so much.
We have something for you. As soon as I find it here. This is called our Soul Power Award, and this means that we're going to donate a pair of shoes and socks to a needy child in your name.
Oh, nice. I hope it's
So-
a fat kid. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you all. Have a great week.